The scenario to be played is Destruction. It has a 12x6 rectangle placed in the middle of the board. It has the kill box in effect. You will then also place 2 objectives on opposite corners. You get 1 point for destroying or removing from play your opponent's objective. You get 1 control point for controlling the zone and 2 for dominating. First person to 5 points wins the game.
Greetings, this is Iron Lich W, and after having stepped away from the game for a few months, I am back, and I am dropping Warwitch Deneghra, known as P-Denny. Plan is simple for this list. Advance Bane Knights and Blood Witches to jam and engage the enemy, and with the assistance of Dougal MacNaile and Scourging from Deneghra, use the Croe's Cutthroats to kill the opposing Warcaster.
Alright, Warmachine is here. The list you see before you I've named Maximum Thresher. The idea behind it is to make use of Doomy 3's abilities to maximize beasts as well as maximize warrior units with one of his scrolls. This is also my first attempt at building this list without tier, and I think it's really important to have things like pieces like Janissa in the list, and at the time this is pre-nerf, so the warders were integral. We'll talk about more of that as the game goes on. Alright, Doomy 3 deployment. We have a very advantageous scenario, I think, for this type of list. I know that there's a nice force in the middle of the board, which could influence some things, but you know what? That's part of playing this game. The idea in this right now is the warders are kind of like your check and balance. I want to make sure the army advances, and I want it to be where the warders are going to take the first hit. The main goal of this list is to always be able to feat offensively with Doomy 3. I believe that the boosted to hit rolls from the Axers just kind of set it over the top.
For deployment of the Cryx, I start by putting Denny in the middle of the board, and then I determine that I'm going to have the Bane Knights go on the right flank because they're going to go after the objective and whatever models my opponent puts on his left. I put both arc nodes kind of near the center, but on the left and right sides of the army. Tartarus right next to the Bane Knights because they're going to have their own independent unit. And then the Blood Witches will go just to the side of Deneghra. I want to try and keep them near the center, that way I can run them to either side in case I need to put the Blood Hag's aura somewhere near the center of the board. Then all the support solos going near Denny. For advanced deployment, I decided to put the Croe's Cutthroats on the far left flank. This will help give them open up as many fire lanes as possible and hopefully take out the Mauler early.
Trollbloods turn 1. Little, I guess, background information here. This is actually round 3 of this matchup between Iron Lich and myself. We played our first game thinking the camera wasn't going to make it to the store, and it was an excellent learning experience. We played our second game. Well, we didn't really play a whole game, but we got through our first turn or so and realized we hadn't actually started the camera recording. So this is kind of like round 3 of turn 1. We've changed terrain every time, and you know, I've gotten a chance to at least learn a couple things that his list does rather early. And again, the undeniable rule of thou shalt always cast implacability with Doomshaper 3 was learned in one of those practice games. As you know, he didn't kill Doomshaper, but he's able to knock down my Mauler and shoot it to a bunch of crows. I think it almost died. It might have lived by just a little bit, but the lesson was learned. So anyways, the idea with this list is I've got a couple of Axers that have Thresher attacks. I've got a champ hero who's got a nice Thresher attack, and his job is going to be to kind of flank out onto the side. What you don't want to do, I'm playing against anyone, what I'm trying to do is make sure something that has some sort of attack threat and value remains outside of Denny's feet. So I want to be able to spread a little bit. By its very nature, Doomshaper is going to brick up, so that's kind of advantageous for Denny. But I feel if I can keep the champ hero out on the side along with that Axer, maybe they miss the feet and they get a chance to actually do something do some work. The list does lack a little bit of a ranged element, but I do think it makes up for it with its ability to hit and be accurate.
For Cryx turn 1, it's basically one massive turn of running, starting with the Bane Knights to try and get them within distance to at least threaten anything that my opponent's going to try and defend his objective with. So it's looking like I might have a chance at a Axer. Definitely want to stay away as those guys have Thresher. And then I also run up Machine Wraith, who's just going to run back there and be generally annoying. Deathripper runs, Tartarus runs, try and keep them from getting jammed up behind the Bane Knights. The Crows will run, try and make it so that if my opponent advances, he's going to have to advance into a position where the Crows will get the aiming bonus. And then the Pistol Race will run. I know my opponent's got a stone, so I gotta be careful where I put them and don't run them all the way. And then the Nightwretch also runs. Blood Witches run. I want to try and get that Orin in the middle of the board to like see where my opponent is going to put at least the models I want to target. Early on, I know I want to try and get the Mauler. Maybe Mulg, but my opponent never gives me Mulg early in the game, so I'm thinking it's going to be the Mauler or an Axer from his right. Then once the Blood Witches are done, Dougal will advance and run. So will the Siren. Denny runs. As does Orin, who's basically going to tag along, do null magic when she's done, and Skarlock runs.
Trollbloods turn 2. Iron Lich has moved up aggressively, as Denny players should. I'm gonna do a little bit of going into my tank, I guess, and doing some thinking about this turn, because it becomes a pretty important turn. I don't want to feat defensively. I want to save my feat for when I can use it offensively. I do want to make sure that I establish the line a bit up the field, and first thing I need to do is, if anything's going to take a hit, I want it to be the warders. So I'm going to kind of try to move them up in such a way where I leave some charge lanes through them, but what I eventually come to the conclusion is I'm going to have to sacrifice the Mauler. And when I say sacrifice the Mauler, the idea behind this is I'm pretty much going to give Iron Lich 9 free points. But in doing so, what I hope to be able to do is make it so that I'm going to take way back more than 9 points afterwards. Not totally giving the Mauler away. I do have visions of the Mauler goading himself onto the arc node that you see kind of in the center of the screen. It's not that I completely am going to want to give him away, but the Crows in Iron Lich's list actually do a tremendous amount of damage on the feed turn and with a couple debuffs. Don't really have a good way to stop any of the debuffs. What I want to make sure is if I can control what it is that he's killing, I think that's better off. And in this game, what I don't really need is armor cracking. So it just boils down to my most expendable piece on the entire board is probably that Mauler. Maybe the Feral Geist is more expendable. But the other thing I want to do is make him have to think about where he's going to send his army. And basically, what I'm most worried about are the Bane Knights. They can do the most damage. They can drop people the best, being weapon masters. One of the things this list that I'm playing really wants to do is every turn make maximum use of each one of Doomshaper's scrolls. So this time he's done the Lamentation scroll, which I believe, I'm not even going to try to tell you guys, I know the names. Anyways, within Doomshaper's control area, it's basically Lamentation. They got to spend double for upkeeps and casting of spells. So if Denny wants to feat, the idea is either she's going to have to start really worried about that kill box, or she's going to, as far as getting the rest of the debuffs and stuff on, you know, just kind of try to make them think a bit. So, all right, and a lot of reason why this turn is taking so long is because I'm sitting there, do I really want to go give the Mauler? Am I really going to give away the Mauler? Am I really going to give away the Mauler? And eventually, yeah, I decide I'm going to give away the Mauler. The other problem is, without reach and only so much threat range, it becomes, I want to be able to make sure that Mauler charges and gets to a point where I can goad him onto the arc node. So he's gotten rush, he's gone forward, he's charging, I believe it's a Croe, and I believe he hits. So double fours. So we hit and kill on our first initial. Things are going perfectly. We're gonna go it over, and I have to attack another Croe to get to that arc node. Not so good on that one. Buy an attack. Not so good on that one. Buy an attack. Yep, that's not so good. Buy an attack, and basically, yep, see when I roll away from the camera, I do much better. That's a 7. So I hit that one, and now the problem comes, I spent enough fury that what I wanted to be able to do, get some swings on that arc node, isn't going to happen. So I don't even have the fury to goad it up into position to engage the arc node. So, you know, it seemed a good plan on the time, but he's still going to do his job. His job is to go up there and take all the hits and establish that as the line, and not let myself get crowded out of the zone. And everybody else is moving up for a second wave. So if I figure if I can protect Mulg, if I can keep a couple things out of the feet, meaning this Axer and this Champ Hero down here, then I'll just be better off. So Janissa's coming in, make sure he doesn't get any ideas of trying to kill Doomshaper. I'm making sure that I'm within fuel cache range for that Axer, and he's kind of backed up just a little bit, and move him to the side. If he wants to come over here with Banes, then he's got to split his force.
For Cryx turn 2, my opponent did something I did not expect when he charges Mauler up all the way into my front line. So having to kind of change my plans on the fly, I decided I was going to take this free gift my opponent gave me. I know he was trying to get our goad to get to something a little more valuable than just a couple of grunts from each unit. So anyhow, I end up allocating, after checking kill box, find out where I can go. Or before I did that, I allocated opponent focus to Nightwretch, because my plan is to have him stand still, shoot, activate Deneghra, and get the party started. Deneghra casts Crippling Grasp on the Mauler, because I plan on having everything over there attack him, especially the Croe's Cutthroats. So I'm successful, and go ahead and make it so Mauler has less defense, arm, speed, strength. And once Deneghra is done, go ahead and activate the Nightwretch, who, standing still and with Crippling Grasp, has a chance at hitting something. He's successful, I boost the damage, and does basically nothing. Generally, the little bugger can do something. Do 1 point damage, it's all I was asking, and he didn't do that. So after Nightwretch is done, activate the Pistol Wraith, and I'm going to have him shoot the Mauler. If I get damaged, that's a bonus, but the real gift with Pistol Wraith is to get off his chain attack stationary, because looking at the rules for implacability, stationary is the one thing that it doesn't resolve, or it doesn't stop. So after I'm able to go ahead and make the Mauler stationary, I go ahead and activate the Skarlock. Skarlock's going to cast Parasite on the Mauler, because Parasite gives me a bigger armor debuff than Crippling Grasp. And since it's stationary, Snake Eyes the miss, and that's it. So once Skarlock's done, go ahead and activate the Croe's Cutthroats. And I go ahead and move some forward, because the pre-errata warders are within range of at least charging one of them. And then I begin shooting with the Croe's Cutthroats. And they were getting some pretty good rolls, and they were doing a decent amount of damage to the Mauler. So my plan is, if I get rid of the Mauler, that'd really fill up a lot of spots, because this is a turn that I'm thinking I want to commit the Blood Witches with their mini feat. So I'm checking line of sight for a couple of the far off warders to see if they can see around my objective. And my opponent agrees that they do. And they get some low rolls, but they still hit. And they successfully kill the warder, or the Mauler. So with the couple extra cutthroats who didn't get to shoot the Mauler, start picking off at the grunts within the stone unit. And I end up killing one. So once Crows are done, I decide, hey, this is the time to activate the Blood Witches. They take the order to run/charge. Charge one in to the stone unit, run another one, and well, essentially run everyone else. Even though I want to get my Blood Witches up there, I know that the stone shuts off ink portals, so I gotta be careful on where I put the Blood Hag, because she's the only one in the unit that's really worth something to me at this moment, since she shuts off tough. So I'm gonna try and keep her back, but I want to keep everyone else within her command range. So after running them, deforesting the forest that's in the middle again, running the rest, I try and barely move the Blood Hag. And the one charging Blood Witch ends up killing another unit from the stone unit, or another grunt from the stone unit. Then I activate Pistol Wraith and have him run up the side of the board. I figure if my opponent's going to want to dedicate resources to killing him, he's either going to have to move the stone way over there, or he's going to move something with a magical ability far from the zone. Siren advances, then Orin advances and casts Null Magic. The goal is to try and, if my opponent wants to cast spells, I gotta try and push him back so he doesn't get near the zone. Then I run the Machine Wraith, basically to my opponent's deployment zone, trying to avoid Mulg's swing since I know he's got a magical club, and just be a general nuisance and a threat, because under Deneghra's feet, Pistol Wraith might be able to kill something. Then the Bane Knights take the order to run charge. Then I'm thinking I should be able to kill the objective with 3 Bane Knights and try to keep the rest back and rely on my opponent triggering Vengeance in order to get them into a better charge position. So first Bane Knight swings on objectives and blows it away. Does 12 points of damage. I'm like, alright, I may not have needed 3. So then the second one goes, does 1 point of damage. I'm like, uh-oh. Third one goes, does 1 point of damage. I'm like, are you serious? And leaves the objective on 1 damage. Now all 3 Bane Knights are on fire, and I'm only hoping for 2.
Troll's turn 3. So it's always nice when the objective's left on 1 life. Little armor 20 action from the Krielstone helped a bit, even though he spiked the heck out of that first hit. The other ones weren't so great. Alright, so situation that lies before us is it's going to be a chance for us to feed offensively, and it's going to be a chance for us to do a lot of thresher attacks. So with that stuff in mind, we'll see what we can do. The only order of activation issue I've got kind of going into this turn is I've tried to make it so that Doomshaper can activate early. If you can do both the scroll for warrior models and do the scroll for, do his feat, that makes it pretty nice combination of effects here. Doomshaper is going to do that. We're going to feat, and we're going to use the scroll for my warriors to get an extra attack die. Warrior models. I kind of had to finagle them backwards a little bit in order to make sure that these Krielstone guys are going to get the benefit of swinging under his scroll. So at the moment I'm trying to figure out, he said those Bane's on fire, but I'm gonna have to probably deal with them anyways. But right now I think the major goals this turn is use warrior models to clean off Thresher Beasts, let Thresher Beasts and Mulg and such get deep into his lines under the feet. So kind of you swap. You want the warders early taking the hits and being in the way, and then after, when you're on your feet turn, you kind of like want your beasts up in front taking the hits. So really the job of these guys right now is to strip Incorporeal and to swing. So, and even Krielstone warriors under the scroll from Doomy hit Satyxis pretty well. So I was only able to get, I think, one guy on the actual swing, but now it's the warders' jobs to kind of clear lanes for the beasts to get through. So again, they're swinging on 3 dice to hit, and I've stripped Incorporeal with the stone, so this is gonna again free up a lot of what was jamming my units. I mean, the warders are great at this junction with this list. What I'm really kind of worried about is, you know, I'm not going to talk about too much, but is this still viable post nerf? I mean, in this circumstance, everything they're attacking, they could absolutely kill post nerf. It's one of those situations where I'm not certain. I'm pretty much, actually I am certain. I'm going to probably need to scrap the list and start playing with things like Fire Eaters maybe. And at that point, if you're playing with Fire Eaters, is Janissa enough to stay out of tier? It's a good question. You guys have to decide. So right now, the Axer's come up, and he's going to do a Thresher attack. And one of the real nice things, again, every one of these attacks is going to be boosted because of the feat. And I believe he hit everybody but maybe one. And he got a good hit onto the Arc Node. I do believe it left the Arc intact, but the Cortex is gone, so. And the added bonus that it's engaged, right? Alright, so Axer 1's done a good job. Axer 2 is going to eyeball the crows up at the top of the screen, I believe. Actually, no, I take it back. I'm now goading this guy to try to get to Orin, and I don't think I'm going to make it. Alright, so he's full. I still feel like he did an excellent job. Axers under Doomshaper are just nasty. So now I'm contemplating, does that champ hero have the range to get to a couple guys? But I think he's only going to get to one, which is unfortunate. Or he might even miss his whole charge. Yep. So because those guys are on fire, he didn't go clear them out. He left them for the Axer. And sadly, he failed his charge. So I did come to the conclusion after testing this list against Iron Lich here and then playing it again in the Baltimore Championships that a second champ hero works really excellent in the list. So the change I made was I took out the Mauler, I added a Slag and a second champ hero, and I was real happy with how that went. Alright, so kind of have an advantage now as far as establishing the line of attack. He's got a Axer that's kind of got a nice reach zone up there. Really, the question in my mind at this point becomes, how far do I want to commit Mulg? And will it be enough to keep him alive? So there is the ability to get overconfident in the feat turn. But I'm not having Mulg do a serious amount of work, but I do want him up in the screen. So he's going to goad his way up, clear out some more Banes. A nice thing that Doomshaper 3 also has is hyper regen. So every single one of these beasts, when they go, get a chance to swing. And the nice thing about having Mulg, and I think this is why I didn't want to go with the Glacier King build, Mulg with Doomshaper, of course, has that affinity and he gets that extra swing. So I believe that the Art Node was going to live through this series of attacks. And then the final swing, did it miss? Well, okay, so we'll move on. I thought I killed that Art Node, I didn't. But the nice thing is Janissa also gets the benefit of that scroll and kills the Incorporeal model that was down, and it could contest my zone. So at this point, I'm all in, just saying, you know what, you're not going to be able to get to Doomy, and if you do, the feat's going to keep him alive, because Janissa has now left the building. So all these guys are on fire, but why take the chance? If you can kill them, kill them. And we're going to see if we can... the one thing that has me nervous is that Iron Lich is not feated yet, and so we're going to hope that our feat keeps us alive. See how it goes.
So Cryx turn 3. Alright, I'm thinking overall I have a good setup. I'm liking what I see. I'm thinking this is my feat turn. So while I give myself time to think it out, I go ahead and set up the Bane Knights so that they all can charge Mulg. I activate Skarlock, have an advance, put Ghost Walk on the Nightwretch because I'm going to walk the Nightwretch out of combat and arc spells through him. So Nightwretch goes. He walks, trying to make sure I get my maximum distance. I'm getting that last inch to move 7. And then after I place him, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that that's going to be 8 inches. So I'm going to have to come up with a different plan. So I'm thinking I might have to commit Deneghra, put her in the zone so I know I capture him with the feet. Look at that, my opponent took Miles off the table. I should win because of that. But no. Now he's showing it the painted Miles to another one of our friends. So then I go ahead and activate Dougal, move him up, use his mini feet so he gets greater range to the Cutthroats, and I just have him take pot shots at the stone unit, try and clear out all the models blocking the line of sight. So Dougal successfully manages to kill 2 of the stone trolls, or trolls from the stone unit, and then he knocked another one down. So he did better than I actually expected him to. Now after Dougal's done, I take the remaining Blood Witch, the hero of the unit. I estimate where I would need her to be, because I'm pretty much committed to running Denny into, not running, but charging Denny into the zone, and popping feet. So I just need to know where I need her to be, because I need to get her within 8 inches. So, activate the Blood Witch, hero of the unit, and runs. Try and run and get her as far as I can, because I need to make sure that when Deneghra finishes her charge, she has line of sight, and is within 8 inches. So after making sure that she's still in the warder's melee range, the pre-nerf for our pre-errata warder, I should say, Deneghra casts Ghost Walk on herself, which normally I shouldn't be doing, and she charges the Blood Witch, making sure I get within her front arc. Hopefully Blood Witch survives. Deneghra goes ahead and pops her feet, getting essentially -2 to all stats, and pokes and kills the Blood Witch. But that's okay, she's not essential anymore. So I go ahead and cast Venom. I'm like, alright, I'm going to take care of like 4 different models here. Target the guy sitting right in front of Doomshaper. Measure, make sure Doomshaper is in range, and verify a number of targets that the template hits. And I missed the first 2 guys in front of Doomshaper, but then I hit Doomshaper. So I'm like, alright, I'm going to boost damage, and then my opponent reminds me that his popped his feet. So after the blood is drained from my face, I'm trying to think, what can I do now? And I'm really trying to salvage this. I'm like, okay, I get 1 less die, and he heals. But I lowered his defense and his armor. Activate Pistol Wraith. We'll see if I can get stationary off. Pistol Wraith stands still and shoots. He hits Doomshaper 3 times. He even deals damage to Doomshaper. Then my opponent starts moving Mulg. I'm like, ugh. But at this point, I'm still thinking, alright, I should be able to pull it off, because my opponent, I think, only had one Fury. I don't remember if it's one or two. But I'm thinking I still have a chance. And of course, when it comes to healing, my opponent starts just rolling 5s and 6s and occasional 4s. So he's healing 2 to 3 times every time I do opponent damage to him. So the damage is going the exact opposite direction I need it to go. At this point, I'm beginning to panic, so I'm not exactly thinking the most clear right now. So I'm like, alright, I'm going to commit all the Cutthroats. Cutthroats will have, because they have poison, they will have 2 dice even after my opponent takes away a dice from his feet. And it's only dice minus 3. So the whole unit should be able to pull off enough damage on Doomshaper, who is currently stationary because of the Pistol Wraith. We're talking 8 guys right here against a stationary Warcaster with one or 2 transfers. Dice minus 3. It seems like this is a very ideal situation. Except when I start rolling dice, my opponent starts rolling as much, he starts healing as much for as many points of damage as I'm doing. So Doomshaper's corrosion, frozen, and out healing my army. So after seeing, I think I did end up doing like 22 points of damage to Doomshaper on his own turn, under his feet. And he just was able to heal for every single point of focus. So at this point, I'm trying to rub a couple brain cells together to develop a new plan to try and not lose. And the best I come up with is, alright, I need to use a second Pistol Wraith to deal with Mulg. I know he can't actually damage Mulg, but I know I need to try and make him use his Fury. That way when he's got to go, he's got to burn points to shake off. He's going to have to boost because he's under the feet. So I'm just hoping that's going to be enough to save me. Pistol Wraith hits with all his attacks, including the chain attack, makes Mulg stationary. Sorry, so he's going to get maybe 2 boosted hits. I'm hoping he misses 1, which will give me the chance to at least live somehow. So now the Pistol Wraith's done, Deathripper advances, gets out of the way, since I'm going to try and send as many guys into Mulg as possible, and as many Bane Knights. Orin moves out of the way, casts Dull Magic, just because he can. Then Tartarus activates and charges Mulg. He's got 3 inches through the forest, so he's going to move his max distance to try and make enough, make enough room for Bane Knights to fit in there. Hits Mulg. And when we roll out the damage, no, his hit bounces. I'm like under feet and still can't damage Mulg. Then the Bane Knights activate and they take the order to charge Mulg. However, because my opponent has been moving Mulg the whole time, only 2 Bane Knights now have line of sight to him. So I'm forced to charge another one into the objective to finish off the objective, spread them out, and put another one on the Axer to try and knock out something. I just didn't want to clump up the Bane Knights for the Axer to Thresher. So, Bane Knights are able to hit Mulg, but my opponent heals for 3 again. Does some more damage, my opponent heals for 2 more. Just unbelievable healing powers of these trolls. And then I successfully managed to kill the objective. 1 control point for me. And then I do some damage to Axer. I forget exactly how much. My opponent heals for a lot.
Trollbloods turn 4. Well, we made it back to turn 4. So Doomshaper 3's feat is a beating. It's awesome, even against Cryx. So he survived the onslaught of shooting from Denny. And Protective Fit from Mulg is basically allowed Mulg to walk right up to Denny, so that the debuff on speed and such is not going to be an issue with the forest, and should be a foregone conclusion. But the main thing here is just make sure I don't screw it up in any way, shape, or form. So I want to make sure that all the fury comes off of Mulg. I took some threshold checks on I think both Axers, and at this point the only scroll we have left is free Animi. Doomshaper himself here is might be getting a little uppity and going after that pistol wraith, or what is he doing? Nope, he's just moving toe the hill for some defense. And I'm not sure if he cast a spell, but he shouldn't have, because I was silenced from Croe. So if I did that, my apologies. But the main thing is to let Mulg crash down onto Denny. So I believe the stone sings for strength, or prays for strength, whatever the stone does, chance. And then Mulg is going to take a couple whacks at his caster. I would have maybe thought he would have charged with his Bane Knights first into Mulg. I still think that Mulg would have been able to walk away underneath Denny's feet, Doomy's feet, I mean, and get to the position he's in. The only thing he could have done is try to run around and box him. I tried to make that hard to do with the Axer in the way, and the Warder and the Axer down below. So it's a great game by Iron Lich. Had fun. Thanks for watching.
For afterthoughts, I admit I messed up when I forgot about my opponent popping his feet, even after within 5 minutes of him telling me he did it. I guess I was too far along in my plans for it to actually register. Had I realized he popped his feet, the appropriate play, I feel, would have been not to put Deneghra in the zone, but to go ahead and pop Deneghra's feet, put Parasite on Mulg and Crippling Grasp on the Axer, and just remove 2 of his 3 beasts from the table and out attrition him. I wasn't touching the warders, the pre-errata warders, so they wouldn't have been hitting as hard as they could. And I know I probably could have just removed Mulg from the table, because he would have been down 7 on his armor between Dark Shroud, Dark Shroud, Parasite, and Deneghra's feet. Then all the weapon masters from the Bane Knights, even at -1 die, I feel could have taken out Mulg as well as the Axer. Furthermore, I could have used the Croe's Cutthroats to either put additional damage on the Axer after I unengaged, got out of his melee with the Nightwretch, and or started working on the warders. Whichever one would have been easier at the time. And my opponent, he did very well. He knew what I was doing. We played the exact same matchup before the video. So I feel I kind of gave away my game plan a little early. But I was able to run around his flanks, and he had to divert it. Like, he diverted Janissa just to get rid of the Machine Wraith, so I was making him spread out, which was to my advantage. But I have to do a better job of taking a step back and assessing the situation and realizing a feat has been popped.